Hey everybody, how you doing? Hope you're well. I'm glad you all came back to watch this. How's everybody doing? I'm gonna wait a little bit, have a little water here while people come in, and so we can get started. I'm gonna put out a tweet that we're starting. Excuse me. That's what I call wrong pipe. Excuse me. All right, let me put this out here. Wow. Or as Burt Ward is Bruce Wayne's sidekick, Robin might say, holy bat, frog in the throat.
Oh my God, what is that?
Holy bat, frog in the throat. Yeah, how about that? All right. So we are a group here. Save Oakland Sports there. Starting. There. Okay. Okay, that's out. Put this out on live stream yet again. And Oakland. Oakland Athletics. Yeah. There. Okay. Okay. That's that. That's that. That's that. How you guys doing? So I am, my throat is sufficiently cleared. I think what I'm going to do is turn this off right here. Hold on a second. Excuse me. There. That's better. Much better. All right. And let's go and let's continue. Hey, how are you? Well, yeah. Hey, welcome everybody. Yeah, this is going to be painful to talk about, painful to deal with. I've talked about what I'm about to tell you a lot. And I think I need to just, there's a term in golf called play it where it lays, right? Play it where it lays. And we have to do that. So here we go. All right. This starts because, as you know, my friend Mathai gave a speech, or not a speech, excuse me, a presentation to you on his show that featured an interview that he did with Sheng Thao, the current mayor of Oakland. And here is the start of that interview. This is on Twitter. I'm going to show it as it was played on Twitter. And then I'm going to present the part that leads to, presents the meat of what this is. The text for this blog post also appears at zenny62blog.com or zenny62.com. So you can go and read my text there. And all you have to do is scroll down a little bit and see the actual document I'm going to refer to and show here. All right. So here is that tweet area session, excuse me, as I call it up here. I'm going to get rid of that, not get rid of it, put it away out of sight. Hope your Saturday was a great one. Mine was. Congratulations to my California Golden Bears. Let me enlarge this. If you zoom in, and I'll zoom in twice more. Once, and then twice. Here. There, okay? All right. So there's in pretty good, area. You can see that, right? Okay. So, and I'll scroll up right to here. Excuse me for a second. I'll get that one in there, and I'll get rid of the one behind it so I don't get confused. All right. And I'm going to put this on freeze. I'm going to freeze that one. Okay. All right. So let me read the preamble about what you're about to hear here. All right. Mayor Thao blames the Oakland Athletics for HowardTerminal. Okay. HowardTerminal. Again, HowardTerminal. Tax increment financing, subsidy numbers, and infrastructure costs that the City of Oakland actually came up with. All right. That's the title. And that's precisely what happened. But there's an even deeper and far more sinister story underneath the door that I've just opened, to the point that it has me shaking, to the point where I seem to be the only person that really thinks that this is an issue, to the point where it's got me quite concerned about a lot of things. All right. Let me, first of all, read to you the tweet and then show you. I'm not going to read it in its entirety, of course. There's more to it. But as you know, Raj interviewed Oakland Athletics owner JohnFisher a week ago, Thursday, at his home in Atherton. And what we were able to hear, we didn't actually see the whole thing. It was a good interview. He got access. Great for him. All right. Great for him. Okay. Now, that turned into a series of events that I'll get to later, but I wrote, here we go again with Oakland Mayor Sheng Thao's latest version of blame the A's and JohnFisher for something the City of Oakland was supposed to do. All right. This time, Mayor Thao was caught red-handed by this vlogger after retweeting tweets shared publicly by NBC Bay Area's Mathai. All right. So now I will present to you what is on Twitter there. And this is Mayor Thao. This is the first of two. This is not the one of concern, but it leads up to it. All right. Raj starts off by announcing the gloves are off. Oakland Mayor Sheng Thao calls out JohnFisher after our interview with athletics owner. Some takeaways of the seemingly failed talks to keep the team from moving to Las Vegas. Then he continues, we'll post link to full interview at the end of the thread. Referring to NBC Bay Area, there's 5 of these, okay, 5 sections. Here's Mayor Thao right here.
We were so close to a deal, and every time I just feel like every single week, every single 2 weeks, there's a new story to tell, a new false narrative that the Oakland A's is telling about why they had to leave the city of Oakland. And again, I continue to call BS on that, because at the end of the day, we went beyond what the A's had requested for, right? In regards to funding, in regards to, the grandiose, not just the stadium, but the full development that they wanted. And so with that being said, I can't help but continue to feel that this was always their scheme, is to always say that somehow it was the city of Oakland's fault and that they had to move to a different city. So we were so close to a deal, and every time I just feel like every single week, every single 2 weeks, there's a new story to tell, a new false narrative that the Oakland A's is telling.
I'll stop right there because that gets into the second part of what she just said. What she just said was actually only 43 seconds long. Okay. So let me now scroll down to the second part, the one that really got my attention. Raj writes, Mayor Thao says Oakland Athletics kept moving the goalposts re public money and the team wanted $611 million. JohnFisher was clear the offsite infrastructure costs at HowardTerminal were going to be borne by the city. They never reached that. All right. Here is the exchange that they had. All right. This is the exchange they had. Okay. Right here.
Initially, the A's had one number. Then they said they needed $611 million of public funds. Oakland came up with, I think, approximately $425 million. So $611 million. You guys came up with $425 million. Relatively speaking, that seems like it's a number that can be bridged.
Well, definitely. It could be a number that it can be bridged, but you have seen, and I have seen, and the fans have seen, the track record of the Oakland A's is always moving the goalposts, not even really knowing what the real request is. And so when you're working in an environment like that, it's not in good faith at all. If it's
Initially, the A's had one number. Then they said they need.
Okay, I'm going to stop it. Here's the problem. Okay. First of all, that $611 million did not come from the city of Oakland at all. Excuse me. It did not come from the Oakland Athletics at all. In fact, it didn't come from either the city of Oakland or the Oakland Athletics. I'm talking about the $611 million number. When I first heard this, I thought, where did they get $611 million from? And here's where things get really uncomfortable, but I have to say it straight out. I received a call last week from the person in the video who was asking me. We talked until 3 a.m. It's very uncomfortable to report, but I have to. It is extremely uncomfortable. But it's what happened. And we spent from 10 o'clock in the morning, or excuse me, the afternoon of my time, Eastern, to 3 o'clock at night, back and forth, because this person was interested in the screen there, was interested. I was working really hard on trying to understand the mathematical arguments, the number of arguments. I told this person, not the mayor, person asking the questions and making the statements, I told him that $611 million, what I said was that was the infrastructure cost, as I recalled it, And I thought Kimley Horn was the firm that came up with it. It had been a while since I looked at this, but I knew that the infrastructure costs we were talking about was something the city came up with and not the A's. It was the city. And we looked around, we were both looking online. I was looking online. I couldn't find the $611 million reference. And I thought, you know how you know something is there? You just know it's there, but you can't find it. So it's like really frustrating, okay? But I didn't think that I was going to watch an interview and have this thing spit back in my face. So I thought, wait a minute, where are the 611 million? It didn't dawn on me when I first heard it that, you know what? That came from our conversation. So I went the long way home. You know, Supertramp, take the long way home. I took the long way home. And I looked online, looked for references for 611 million. Excuse me. This is hard. Oh, boy. And then I typed in, I put in infrastructure. And what I found was this. I found, excuse me, this document that I'm going to show you right here. For 612 million in this agenda report, that one, which I'll enlarge here. All right. Then I'll further enlarge it here. Here and here. And one more time here. This was dated, as you can see, July 1st, 2021. It was approved by the city administrator, Ed Reiskin, this next day, June 2, 2021. Study session on the waterfront ballpark district at Howard Terminal. Okay, so we scroll down. Recommendation. City staff recommends the city council conduct a study session and receive an informational report as follows. A, conduct a study session on the proposed non-binding terms of a development agreement with the Athletics Investment Group, LLC, doing business as the Oakland Athletics, a California limited liability company, including terms for, but not limited to, a potential infrastructure financing district, affordable housing and non-relocation relating to the proposed project, and B, receive an informational report on the proposed Oakland waterfront ballpark district project to be developed on the property known as the Howard Terminal at the Port of Oakland project, including but not limited to the following. 1, Port of Oakland's and City's project decision responsibilities, including the city port regulatory framework. 2, project approvals and timelines. 3, community benefits. 4, analysis of environmental toxic contaminants at project site and anticipated remediation processes. And 5, potential impacts to nearby maritime industry and port-related and non-port jobs. Then it gives you the executive summary. All right. So I started scrolling through this because I'd seen a reference to the 612 million. I thought, wait a minute, let me stop. I think this is it. This is it. It gets even weirder after what I'm showing you. Okay. So you scroll down here, and this is what Betsy Lake wrote, talking about the development agreement term sheet, the financial plan, infrastructure financing district. You keep scrolling through, and then what pops out beyond this was this right here. Okay. I thought, okay, that's interesting. Then IFD Oakland A's proposal. All right, which means the Oakland A's had proposed one. So I read through that. The A's proposed term sheet, including 2 IFDs, and I realized, wait a minute, I've seen this before. Why have I seen this before? Right? All right. So I kept scrolling down. And then I got to another one. I'm going to come back to that. And it reads, and I want you to pay attention to this. IFD staff recommendation. And let me see if I can enlarge that even beyond where it's at. All right. IFD staff recommendation. This is not the A staff. This is the City of Oakland staff. Because the A's aren't in the economic development business. This is IFD. You can see it in big letters now. All right. You can see it. What does it total up to? You can see it right there. I'll highlight it. 612 million right here. Okay, right here. Infrastructure costs, on-site infrastructure, grade separated crossings, off-site transportation improvements, Bay Trail extension, 18.3 acres. Total infrastructure and open space costs, $612,700,000. And the text reads as follows: development of the Howard Terminal site requires significant investment in infrastructure, both on-site, on and off-site, as shown in table 2 below. 2.2. Boom, right? And then it goes on to read as follows. And I quote, you see it reading, the cost of those improvements is beyond what can be borne by the city and developer alone. In order to bring the project to fruition, unlock the potential of the Howard Terminal site, grow the city and county's tax bases, and achieve equitable benefits for our residents, public investment from both the city and the county is needed. Therefore, city staff recommends formation of an IFD over the Howard Terminal site only, as shown in the figure provided as attachment 3, ensuring that the project pay for itself, investing new project generated revenues into public infrastructure and benefits without putting either the county or the city's general funds at risk, is a responsible way to maximize the public benefits of this transformative development. Okay? Then it reads non-relocation. Then it talks about the relocation agreement. Let's go back here. All right. So again, the city staff recommends formation of IFD over the Howard Terminal site only. That's it. Because here's the reason, folks. Because this goes back to what the A's version was as the city claim. Let's go all the way back here. That is here. Oakland A's proposal. The Oakland A's proposed term sheet included 2 IFDs over the project site, Howard Terminal, and one offsite covering the Jack London district and portions of West Oakland. You know, there's this whole ridiculous argument regarding maps. Okay. Staff recommends against, in other words, they don't like the A's proposal, right? Against using an offsite IFD for a number of reasons, while IFD over the Howard Terminal site itself would clearly capture those incremental taxes that would not exist but for build out of the project, the proposed project. An IFD over the adjacent neighborhoods is likely to capture at least some naturally occurring incremental property tax revenues that, absent the project, would otherwise flow to the city's general fund. The city has been operating with a structural imbalance for a number of years, with growth in expenses outpacing our revenues. An offsite IFD could exacerbate the structural imbalance, reducing the city's ability to provide service and infrastructure enhancements in the near term and long term to the city as a whole, and would, in essence, be using general fund dollars to subsidize the project. Okay. And so, and it goes on to talk about how the assessed values in the Jacqueline area has appreciated approximately 6.4% per annum on average. Something I called David Cobble back in 2017. But at any rate, point is, the city went through some lengths. This is Betsy Lake putting out the reasons why the A's idea was a bad idea. And setting up, as you can see, the staff recommendation for $612 million. All right. For $612 million. Okay. So when I saw that, I thought, okay, that's all well and good, but where did I get $611 million? Why was that stuck in my head? And so what I did was this. I went back and I actually searched for $611 million and HowardTerminal. I wrote 611 million, HowardTerminal, and then PDF, right? Because I was trying to find what I had done. And PDF wasn't getting me what I was looking for, right? I was trying to find it and trying to find it and trying to find it and trying to find it. And I kept, tearing my hair out about it. And I'm like, what's going on here? So I thought, okay, well, I'll lock it in, in parentheses, because I was the 600. I had the results where the 611 was over here and the million was over there, right? So I thought, well, let me just lock this sucker in. Okay. So I locked it in. Okay. And I scrolled and I kept looking and looking. I thought, I don't see anything here. I see this has nothing to do with that. And then I thought, well, maybe if I put in Oakland, okay? So I put in Oakland. I went through all this rigmarole, all this stuff. And finally, was getting results that are just increasingly, weird and more weird and more weird. And so I thought, okay, well, that's not coming out. Let me put 612 and see what that gets me. So let's see how many times that was repeated. And I get these like blah, blah, blah. But what I did find was quite, what's that when you're looking for something and it's almost like, remember Planet of the Apes? Remember how Charlton Heston went out with, who played the lady? And they were trying to find home and it turned out they were already at home. But home had basically was the result of us destroying each other. Remember that? So you had the Statue of Liberty and the spires and everything and all that. Remember that? Okay. Well, that's kind of what I went through, because what I found was this right here in these results. Boom. I'm going to enlarge it because right now it doesn't seem like a big deal to you, but it was a huge deal to me. Okay. N and M. HowardTerminal update. Airfield Oakland staff report ... Short of the 612. And I thought, wait a minute. This is mine. July 3rd. Look at this. July 3rd, 2021. I had written this 2 days after the release of that report. Okay. And I wrote that it lacked a TIF revenue estimate, because it did. Okay. I wrote rather extensively about it, as you can see. Okay. And I went through talk about how the city didn't understand tax increment financing. I wrote all of this. Okay. And this was just before I wound up interviewing the mayor about this same subject on July 20th, 2021 on Zinni to YouTube, and she admitted to me right here, and I'll find that. All right. If you haven't seen it before. Zinni 62 LIBBY TIF. And if I go down here,
I was getting some bad headaches. And then the third one, she was present.
Put that on silent while it's coming up. I'll skip the ads and then I'll go back. This is it. Okay. So then listen to this. This is what I asked Libby on this date. Okay. Right here. Right here. Excuse me.
With a really nagging tax increment financing issue. The council doesn't understand that we don't have a full 45-year tax increment read with an explanation of the bond issue, the debt coverage ratios, and then that could frame and should frame your conversation with the athletics and the community. There's enough to help the community, but that's not happening. And the numbers that are there by that San Francisco consultant, they made gigantic errors. So there's a number of errors here that really need to be straightened out. I'm asking, are you open to straightening those out? And can you explain the resolution issue? Thank you, Ms. Mayor.
Denny, with respect to the tax increment financing, because that our traditional tool of redevelopment is no longer available to cities, it's made this project much more complicated. We are proposing to use a new tool called the Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District in combination with a community financing district. These are relatively new tools that have not been used extensively, but they have been used somewhat, and that is what we're proposing to do. The full details, as well as additional analysis and economic projections, will be available as we move towards the development agreement, the DA, the binding agreement. And we are excited about ensuring that these are project generated revenues. These are revenues that, but for the project, the city would not have. And so we want to be clear, because people are talking a lot about what is the public investment. These are dollars generated by the project itself.
I'm going to stop right there. And that proves my point. You heard Libby say it. These are dollars generated by the project itself. That has been the constant Oakland song as long as it was going to do tax increment financing. So now let's go back to what Mayor Thao said with respect to Raj, and go from there. Because it should be clear now that the objective was for the city to have this system whereby if I can get around here, it would generate, I was going to use that one. I'm not going to use that one. I have to come back to that one. Okay. So let me go back here. There it is. All right. Now, go back here and then copy that and go back. Stop that screen and then present this where it would appear here. And let's go over this again. Okay. This right here. All right.
Initially, the A's had one number. Then they said they needed $611 million of public funds. Oakland came up with, I think, approximately $425 million. So $611 million. You guys came up with $425 million. Relatively speaking, that seems like it's a number that can be bridged.
See, the A's never said that. Raj said that. He took the information that I gave him and he fashioned it, because I told him the city came up with that number. You hear what I'm saying? The city of Oakland came up with the number. It was supposed to be 612 million. I made a referential mistake when I was talking to him. Based, I believe, you say, where did I get the 611? It's still a shorthand, right? Because I believe I used that when I was doing a calculation with respect to the Century Urban report, where I was tearing it apart. Because that number jumped out at me. It was like, whoa, because you saw the components of it. And you heard me read the city's, as expressed by Betsy Lake's position, which is, look, we can't do a two map enhanced infrastructure financing district, which gets to my other point. Her reference to the district as IFD, infrastructure financing districts, was wrong. There is no IFD in California legislation. There's EIFD. Why the E? Why enhance? Because that means it calls for the use of tax increment financing. IFDs are done in other parts of the country where they don't use tax increment financing. But California's designation was very deliberate. It wanted to send a signal. This was the son of redevelopment, which was killed by Jerry Brown when he was governor in 2011. Okay, so that was crystal clear. All right, crystal. So how are you going to know what you need to cover in a bond issue, let alone how large the bond issue proceeds should be, if you don't know the costs and the breakdown? That was never the athletics role, ever. Yet, okay, you heard, I'm gonna go back here again. You heard Raj, my friend, okay, say, listen.
The A's had one number, then they said they needed $611 million of.
Okay, they never said that. That was Raj feeding this to Sheng. Why would he choose to do that? And believe me, I wasn't going to say it like this, but I have to, because I did approach him with this situation. Okay? It's because it put me in a very uncomfortable position of having to say, well, do I just sit back and say nothing? But I'm not that kind of person. My contention is that there's no reason to tell a warped truth, if you will, about anything if you have the courage of your convictions that what you were doing was right, regardless of which side you're on. There are some people who've told me that they think this is okay because, well, JohnFisher was lying. About what? That's not the point. The point is, who said what to whom here is not the city's role to lie about when it was the city's responsibility, and it's provable. Okay? Now, I will say something very blunt. Regarding this, the A's brass were not lying. What the A's brass got wrong was how tax increment financing works in terms of when they announced they're going to build a full project build out of 12 million, then you have to calculate the TIF revenue for that. They never did it because they didn't think that way. But it's the responsibility of the city to know how to think that way. Why? Because the legislation for tax increment financing in California, particularly SB 293 Skinner, doesn't call for the athletics to do this. It calls for the city to do it by establishing a public financing authority and then having the public financing authority write what's called an infrastructure financing plan. Two things, so actually there's three things the city did not do, because the city didn't drop down the boundary for a EIFD zone in legal terms, where I could say, okay, to the assessor, here's what we're going to do. Let's vote on this, period. Here's the seats that are going to take up the board of the Public Financing Authority. Here is the document that says we will transfer our ability to bond to you. Okay, here's the other document that has the agreements from the Port of not the Port of Oakland, but the City of Oakland, the County of Alameda, BART, AC Transit, and the EB Mud Flood Control District. Those are the tax, and the school district. Those are the taxing agencies at play here. They all give up something except the school district. Now, I would negotiate that for that myself. There's nothing in the law that says I can't, which would mean an adjustment to the legislation. If I had the school district's agreement, it would be a trade-off. a unique pass through because I need that money. So my point is, it's the city's job. You saw it in the documents. You saw it in the city's own statements. But then we get to Raj, who talked to me days before, and I emphasized that 611 million was the infrastructure cost. And it wasn't something that the Athletics came up with. The city did. I thought it was Kinley Horn Consulting, and that report is flying around someplace because that's where I first saw a reference to it, if memory serves. My memory is actually sharper than I thought. But it's not the Athletics, folks. And yet we have Mr. Mathai here doing this. And I repeat, and let's listen to the whole thing.
The A's had one number. Then they said they needed $611 million of public funds. Oakland came up with, I think, approximately 425.
And look, Sheng is nodding in agreement with him. When you point out, she doesn't know. Otherwise, she would have corrected him. Or maybe she felt it necessary never not to do anyway. Maybe, just maybe. Well, let's listen to this.
Million. So 611 million. You guys came up with 425 million. Relatively speaking, that seems like it's a number that can be bridged.
Well, definitely. It could be a number that it can be bridged, but you have seen, and I have seen, and the fans have seen, the track record of the Oakland A's is always moving the goalposts, not even really knowing what the real request is. And so when you're working in an environment like that, it's not in good faith at all. If it's
Actually, the A's had.
Okay, so basically what we have is this. We have is the awful situation of actually the mayor having had the table set for her by Mr. Mathai, moving the goalposts or pretending like goalposts were being moved. There were no goalposts being moved, folks. This is excuse me. Oh. What really bothers me is that these are very serious estimates that are the lifeblood of building public-private partnerships in structures. They create and it's one thing for Raj to know it's a lie, but it's nothing to engineer it. Because he got that 611 million from me. He knows it. He didn't get it from anybody else. And he gave it to Sheng. Now, did they rehearse this? Because it sure sounds like she knew what was coming. And it sure sounds like she knew what to say. All right? The Lord dropped this into my lap for a reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I care. But my whole point is, that's what bothers me. We have lowered ourselves to a point where no one seems to care about getting these projects right in Oakland, the Oakland context. Everybody else does. You don't have the state of Tennessee making this mistake. You don't have the city of Nashville making this mistake. Both teamed to put a significant amount of money in, the largest subsidy ever, for Tennessee Stadium for the Titans. All right. Okay. You don't do this. I don't care what the reason is. There's no reason to do it. And so now we have to take the whole ball of wax of what the mayor has done, including having Molly Mabron out as the project manager when, according to Michael Cobruno, she had left months before, apparently all the way back to before they went to Seattle for the All-Star game. But the city is still holding her out as project manager, even though in reality she was actually off looking for other jobs for some sound reasons. Okay. But then the mayor takes her chief of staff, the mayor takes her director of communications to join herself and Ms. Mayburn in a trip to Seattle. She doesn't take her city administrator. She doesn't take the county administrator, Susan Marinici. She doesn't take the people who are the true lever pullers who can get a deal approved and done like that. She doesn't invite Henry Gardner, our esteemed executive director and the Oakland County Joint Powers Authority, and arguably the best city manager we've had in Oakland's history. She doesn't take people who are the deal makers. She doesn't take the previous mayor, which would have been an even better idea because of the mayor's relationship with the commissioner. It's supposed to be an all hands on deck effort, right? Sheng takes it like this and she puts it where it's close to the dust. I don't know if somebody told her not to do that. I don't know who's putting voices in her head that are counter, but it's clear the prevailing voice is not the experienced one. Now, I'm beyond saying this should upset you. I can't be responsible for how you feel, but I have to tell you what this looks like to me based on a unique position I was in. Based on the fact that and I know this upsets a lot of people, but I don't care because the simple fact that I have a detailed interest in and grasp of this in the same way that I've treated every project I've been involved in, not as a media person, but I mean actually as an intern or consultant to the mayor or head of the Super Bowl Oakland bidding committee and the Oakland Alameda County Sports Commission, or on the Alameda Base Reuse Committee, where I was put there in 94 by Alameda County Supervisor Keith Carson. I take all of my assignments extremely seriously because it's about something that I've been interested in since I was little. You know, you don't build cities in the dirt under the idea that the government doesn't exist. You build cities in the dirt because you know the government exists and you're 6 years old and you want to run the government. That was me. Okay? City building. You don't build cities of the future using Hot Wheel tracks. If you're doing it without the idea that there's going to be a government that does it. Like, for example, an organization that I was aware of when I was 9 years old. It was called the Reedy Creek Improvement District that governs Walt Disney World now has been replaced by Governor DeSantis' board that I consider to be illegal, according to the way Florida law should be written. But in this left-right world, it's not. But I digress. This whole fact that occurred along with this shows you the mess that we're in terms of how government has been degenerated by politics. And the media has taken us all for a ride and along with it. And it's not a fun one. This is your money, folks. This is your government's. And they're not at work. Right now, this effort exists to do one thing, to make the mayor look good in the face of the fact that the Athletics are leaving. By keeping up this idea that, oh, it's not going to happen by, along with Raj, presenting this image that the A's came up with these numbers when A's had nothing to do with them. And as Dave Covell told me in an interview, July 22nd of 2022, a year ago plus, they've been waiting 4 years to get the tip situation out of the way with respect to the cost for community benefits. The athletics and the city were under the impression that that community benefits cost is going to be $425 million. You didn't see that parked in the $612 million. So I'm looking at that, I'm thinking, okay, tack that on, right? So you tack that on to the 611 million, all right? 612 million, see, there I go again, right? Plus, that's 1,107 million. That's an exorbitant cost. So it's no wonder that they never finished. I think somewhere along the line, someone looked at this, or part of it, to say they looked at it and told us to give them too much credit, given what I found, and said, but maybe said, you know, we can't do this given the cost. When in point of fact, they could do it. Why? Because you have to go back to the fact that they're yelling, the A's are yelling, we're going to build 612 billion. But you see, as much as I had criticized Dave for not announcing what the tax increment financing revenue throw off should be, it's really the city that's supposed to do it. But they weren't doing it. They weren't working in unison when they were blurted out the number. The city is quite literally leaving him hanging out to dry, and themselves too, because the city didn't recognize, you know what, we're going to have all of this money for TIF. It was stuck with the idea through Century Urban that, hey, we're already paying off bonds for downtown. But they never stopped to ask the question, we know how much is remaining. I did. You know what the number is? It's 53 million. If you are looking at a bond issue that's, according to law, 43 years in length, which Century Urban wasn't doing, they were looking at 19 years in length, but 45 years in length, not 43, 45 years in length. And you're looking at an average rate of growth of assessed value of 4% calculatively, knowing that the real average is 6.4%, which gives you a nice cushion of certainty, okay? Then you know that you can command, if the assessed value base year, the new, is 2 billion, you know, the bar park plus the events, let's say you target that. And then you can turn around and say, okay, well, I'm looking at 1,600,000,000 by the end. I'll take half that, that's 800 million. That gets me almost to where I need to go, because it's 111 million, okay? So you tack on the grants that you got for infrastructure, you know, 375 million one. So let's do that. We got 800 million from a bond issue, all right? And all right, plus 375. That's 1,175,000,000 in total subsidy between TIF revenue, bond proceeds, and then grants. All right. So that's what the project should have looked like. A lot of money, yeah. But if you coldly read SB 293 Skinner, and then you turn around and say, well, gee, I've got all that, and let me just subtract, all right? You go and you figure out what you have after you spent the 612, you've got enough to do your community benefits. And really, there's arguably a lot in that package that should be whittled down. They shouldn't be there, rather than not done. But it's the city's lack of willingness to get the numbers right, buttressed by the media's willingness to twist these numbers and help the city twist them when it became necessary, from their view, to craft a false narrative to make JohnFisher look bad. That's what this is all about. But see, they're not thinking in terms of when ends beyond that. The media people are thinking, gee, it keeps this stern drum going so that we get constant attention from it, which makes us money. The mayor thinks it makes her look good, and it gives her a tool upon which to gain allies, because she's been the victim of this shameful travesty of the A's leaving and then telling them what to do regarding TIF revenue estimates and all of this, and the big bad bully Oakland A's, ran by JohnFisher, the billionaire. I'm not trying to let John off the hook. I don't care one way or the other. The reason why I don't is simple. I was trained to do economic development. I went to Berkeley to do that. The paper that I wrote at grad school was called Jumping Off a High-Tech Bandwagon Without an E-Ticket, about Oakland's failure to establish high-tech business within it. And there I learned the story of how, and also the city was trying to do two things: build the Oakland Airport Business Park into that high-tech incubator area under what's called the Economic Development Corporation of Oakland, and build a 2 million square foot shopping center in Uptown, developed by the Rouse Company. Well, that degenerated to where the Rouse Company had decided, hey, you know what? We can't afford this, and the subsidy kept going up and up and up and up. Finally, at the 1993 City Council meeting, it had gotten that far, and by then I was columnist to the Montclair. I remember today sitting in front of where Dick Spees, our District 4 Councilmember, sat, and he said, you know, we can't afford this $294 million subsidy for this shopping center, and went away. That was a second cut of it. The first cut of it was in 1985. Paul Cobb, who's the publisher of the Oakland Post, got together 45 community groups. He was then the executive director of the Oakland Citizens Committee for Urban Renewal, and killed the project. Why? The same reasons that have impacted HowardTerminal today. You, City of Oakland, are not spending money in African American predominant communities. So we don't want you to spend that money downtown. That's why. Sound familiar? Okay. All right. Fast forward to today, and now you have legislation that ostensibly is supposed to get over that. You build HowardTerminal, you can actually take part of the tax increment money, and you can use it for what SB 293 Skinner and other versions of enhanced infrastructure financing district legislation call projects of community-wide significance. That includes West Oakland, that includes the Hills, that includes the Coliseum. Okay? We never did that. So excuse me, I did what I did. I had to tell the truth. Because you don't know, now he's just doing his job. And obviously Raj is working for someone. He's not working on his own. He's not being a free agent. But there's somebody out there that is trying to engineer this in a way that makes the city look good and makes the athletics look bad. And so you would have to ask who's saying that. And on top of all that, who would actually pay? Because this is not something that's done for free. This is payola. Who would do that? Is it logical that the city would pay that money? Is it logical that the city would pay to engineer that? Possibly. I think so. Who else? Who else? And to what end? Political revenge. Leaving. Making the mayor look bad. Getting out of Oakland on her dime, on her watch. How dare you do that to me? How dare you not give me an opportunity to have my place in the sun? How dare you? Sheng is probably undoubtedly thinking. You don't work with me. How dare you go off and get involved in a land deal in Las Vegas? And yes, I know you said to me that we're working on parallel paths, but she didn't take it seriously until it happened. And neither did her counterpart, who's been back there too, not completely out of the picture. Don't believe that for a minute. Because Libby too is concerned about her love for Oakland, but also her legacy, which is now tied to Sheng's. Something that Libby, if she starts thinking about it, might regret. Because neither one of them really understand this. Libby made her mistake by putting herself out. I've said it before. Put herself out there, not having a project manager that really understood this. Having a project manager that, hey, when Ms. Bayburn gave her first presentation in the county of Alameda, she told them, hey, I'm in Hawaii. We're having a great time here. It's beautiful. That's not something you want public officials to hear. To start off your presentation for the largest economic development project in the city's history. But that's what she did. And they basically gave her the equivalent of a pat on the head, which was equally embarrassing. That's not the way Oakland is supposed to be, but you have to take the red pill, or maybe more appropriately, I have to take the red pill and realize that it is the way Oakland is. Okay. So, I don't know what to do with this. I accept what I did. It has really upset me. I'll get over it. But I'm upset because no one cares about the city. No one cares about getting it right anymore. We are officially out of the realm of the organization. The organization, man, of the 60s. I was born in 1962. Maybe they didn't get it right, but there was always a process. System dynamics, theory Z. Setting up a plan included setting the goals to meet the objectives. And then other goals to meet those objectives. There's none of that in this project. No staff presentation of goals and objectives. No brand new organization to be built. No board. Las Vegas does it. Cities around the United States have done it in what I call the stadium authority model. But Oakland doesn't. Not since the 20th century. We haven't done it in the 21st. And it hurts me. It hurts to see my city degenerate in that way. But I'm going to go back to something that Elihu Harris told me when I worked for him. And he said, Zinni, and he said this to me. He said, take those brains. And he wasn't talking about him or his office, but it was in the context of criticism that I was getting for essentially the city not wanting to get it right. Or anybody else, like the Athletics in that case, regarding what they owed us. But I think I was a little too hard on them at that point. But Elihu told me, Zinni, take those brains of yours and use them on yourself because no one cares. And that's been the refrain all of my association with the city. They found different ways to essentially shame me into wanting to really make a difference for the city in a hurry. It was always, slow down, young man. Why? I came this close to establishing a new incubator for 35 seamstresses in West Oakland when I was but an intern, fresh out of Cal in 1987. They took me off the project I created, and they said this because I was an intern. Ta-da. There's always an excuse. All right? When I was talking to Raj, he did not seem to want to believe that I was economic advisor to Elihu Harris. We were talking on the phone during that whole exchange. That really hurt me. I didn't think he thought of me like as a poser or a faker. But I'm thinking, is that why he decided to try to punish me? Or am I taking that too far? Yeah, I think I am. So I'll back off that. But I'm playing this out publicly because at the very basis of this is the fact that a lie was engineered. That's why. You didn't see Sheng sitting there saying, well, I'm not sure if those numbers are right. Okay? It was all show. Okay? I'm going to start. He says, so there's no political figure or city member you can reach out to turn this around. Please, Zinni, our last hope. I'm trying, I'm working on, I'm worried. My mom is here. I am here for her. That's my first priority. My second priority is trying at work and getting business and everything to make up for the people we lost during the pandemic. That's my focus. I had hopes that, hey, perhaps I get hired to help out the Coliseum, but the way I was treated recently, I could put the kibosh on that. They don't want to fix problems in a way that calls for what it used to call for. You work with people you may not necessarily like, but that's not the concern. The concern is getting the job done because there are people out there, little kids that want to go to baseball games. They just want to have something fun to do. They don't care that you don't have the money to spend for it. They don't want to hear that. They want you to figure out a way to do it. To bring baseball in, it doesn't have to be the A's. It could be the Brewers or any other organization you try to go after or an expansion team. But do something. They don't want to hear no. They don't want to hear, well, we're working on all that crime and everything. Because, hey, you know what? As I've said before, William Donald Schaefer, when he was mayor of Baltimore, said it very basically. He said, every city has its pathologies. You got to make sure, I'm paraphrasing, that your residents have places to go where they can enjoy life. That's called city building. That's what it's all about. Oakland has lost sight of that. It has allowed itself to be degenerated into, well, I got my progressives over here and my not so progressives, and everybody's got a label that's political. The people like myself, the people who went to school to do urban planning, are cast aside. The people who get the podium in front of the cameras from start to finish are elected officials. It's not the appointed czar of HowardTerminal that gets the cameras. Oh no. Because in the old days, that person always took the political flack. The politician could sit back and say, oh, they just didn't cut it. Now we got this other person to replace, and I have the utmost confidence in blah, 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 blah. That's how we used to do it. Now, the official quite literally puts their own head out there to face the music. That's stupid, but that's what we do today. Because, and for some good reasons from their perspective, the citizenry wants the mayor to take charge. But I don't think the citizenry wants the mayor to take charge to the point where they want to consistently see the mayor's face and not know how the sausage is being made. All right. We have done a tremendous disservice to Oakland, and we've done a tremendous disservice, Raj, to each other. I would never do that to anybody. If I don't know something, I'll let you know I don't know. I'm not going to cover for just to make a mirage. So, no, I don't feel like, who the last hope is? You are. You all are. I'm not the last hope. I put out the information. I'm really pained by this. Yeah, I don't deserve it, but here it is. Okay. I don't deserve being put in the position I was put in, but I was. I was given a choice. What is it? It's a Faustian bargain, I guess. I don't know. But I'll tell you what, because I did this, I'll tell you one thing I'll do. I'll sleep much better. I didn't sleep last night. I didn't go to bed until 7:33 in the morning. I couldn't sleep. I had to write this. I had to think about it a bunch of times. So, I don't know. I've done my job. Other bloggers have people, fans, carrying their voice. Okay. I need your help to do that. You be the ones to spread the word, to get other vloggers involved. You can find out where they are coming from. All right. But I've done my job. My number one job is to make my mother happy. My mom does not want me involved in this. She hates Oakland. Why? Because of the way Oakland's treated me historically. I get that. I love my city. I love the promise of Oakland, even though I feel the promise of Oakland has been ripped away under example after example after example of episode after episode of people in government not seeking to do the right thing, but taking the right action only for themselves. Well, he was right. Use your brains on yourself, he said, because nobody else cares. He said that way back in 1997. His words could not be more true today. So, thank you all very much for listening. I need to at least reach 60,000 subscribers just for my own, so you can help with that. If you're not subscribed here now, subscribe. Give this a thumbs up. You should ask me what I want to do, and I've told you I've done it. I'm tired. It would be nice to know, although I really do have my doubts, that other people care. I doubt that other people do. We're too busy working. Look at the A's fans. They've been showing up at city council meetings. They didn't do the things that their counterparts, the Raiders people, all right, did. I'll read the super chats. Okay. Thank you. Let me start from the top here. Whew. And Raj, I have to say this, man. I apologize for putting this out there, but I gotta tell you, man, I had to. And I wish you had more respect for me than to put me in that position. All right. Says, like your comments on StreamYard as an example, click on the comment shown on stream. Okay. Someone needs to call BS out of the BS that Tao's pushing the Oakland and the A's were close to a deal. Oakland and the A's were not even close to a deal. Nope. Dong, all right. Yep. Athletics relocating, plain and simple. Yep. The interview with NBC Bay Area News Raj Mathai was a joke. Eric Sterling writes, he says the same softball question. He asked the mayor why the City Council haven't even voted on the binding resolution, and she couldn't even answer. I'm completely fed up, Sheng Thao. Hopper says, hate to give you the bad news, Mayor, but the people in Oakland aren't that happy either. So she said she was fed up. The sooner the A's leave, the better, he writes. It isn't good to have a lame duck team hanging around for 3 to 4 years. I agree. So even if you accept the proposition that the mythical summit would have resulted in a deal, it isn't clear that the deal would have been signed off by the City of Oakland, Oakland City Council. True. How to become a millionaire in Oakland? Be a billionaire and try to start a business with Oakland demanding a community benefits package which costs you $999 million, and you still can't start your business. It's the A's fault. It's MLB's fault. But it can't be my fault, says the mayor. Haha. Buddy Brazil's channel has the Raj interview of Thao being another episode of the Hoopium videos. Hoopium videos leave the impression the A's aren't moving to Las Vegas. Something's going on there, between, because that's NBC Bay Area in total. Whatever's going on there, there's a better way, gentlemen. Just like I said, take the red pill. Become interested in development economics and procedure. Be a 1960s organization person. Was interested in process, asking the magic question. Why weren't things done the way they should have been done? Ask that. If those two ask that, we'll all be better off by miles. Okay. Las Vegas Athletics are coming. More grandstanding by Oakland Mayor. More of this kind of attitude pushes the A's and MLB toward playing in Vegas next year, instead of finishing out the lease of the Coliseum. Facts. Someone in ballpark, here they come. Manfred tells Oakland that for the next 4 years, the A's get to use the Coliseum for free, or Oakland will never be considered for an expansion team. My thought on that is this. If the mayor turned around and called me and said, Zenny, all right, I want you in charge. I know you were the mother when you figured out how to do a remote, but I want you in charge. The first thing that I would do is I would convert the HowardTerminal project. So I really thought about this. First, I was for the ballpark thing, but I have another take on that. Oakland is without a convention center. We haven't even tried to build a competitor in Moscone City. We've been content to let San Francisco have the spoils of a large-scale convention center. That's got to end. I would turn HowardTerminal into a 1 million square foot convention center and auditorium on the waterfront with hotel, which would benefit the existing hotels at Jack London. Not to say that a ballpark wouldn't, but then I would relegate the ballpark to Coliseum, where we were going to build Coliseum City, establish an enhanced infrastructure financing district down there, model it out and cost it out, because that's essentially the public's development. We act like, which is the other problem, it's always the developer that has to do it. No. It's the city that sets the table, and we find the developers. That's the way you do it. You take responsibility. We find the developers. I can find developers. I've done it before. Did it for Jerry Brown's 10K project. Okay. All right. It says message to town, Brody Brazil. Don't worry, MLB will figure it out and find a place the A's to play when 2025, 2027, the Coliseum isn't available. I have to say this. I don't know Mr. Brazil. He seems like a nice guy. All right. And I don't like, I really like Raj. So this really pains me. But hey, I guess Raj doesn't like me enough to say, Zane, I'm not going to put you in that position. Or maybe what he felt he had to do overrode our friendship. Or maybe he thought I'd never figure it out. Surprise. All right. But again, I've got nothing against anybody. People like to contact me like, I have to say this. The guy calls Jeff Bolden. Jeff, don't like that, man. Don't be sending me texts saying, look, there are a lot of people going to say things about me. They've been doing it for decades. I don't care. So, but don't bring it to my attention either. That's because you should be out there defending me. I don't need to know about things that I don't go around looking for. I don't like, let's see what they wrote today. I don't care. Or said, I don't care. I have bigger fish to fry here by parsecs in terms of distance. Maybe the A's in Oakland come up with a deal to lease the Coliseum for the next 3 years, but I think Oakland will make some unrealistic demands for it to work out. Oakland needs to give up and pursue Major League Baseball expansion or movement. We have to be about the cold business of economic development, which we haven't done in a long time. I mean, the cold business of economic development is quite literally luring a team or business out of another city, a big one, and into ours. We've had it done to us once, twice, thrice, 4 times. The Oakland Panthers, which are now the Bay Area Panthers, which really should be coming back. Don't you think enough's enough? Thao will do a complete 180 on HowardTerminal, reverting it back to its original use for the port, resulting in complete 360 and nothing changes. Could happen. Welcome, San Francisco. Here's the thing. The reversion, you're right, happened, but the city never did anything with it. We need a convention center. I'm not kidding you. Having a convention center at or near the size of the Moscone Center would elevate the convention handling stature of the Bay Area extraordinarily because of the proximity of those two cities and the need for jobs of that kind. Yeah, some of them semi-well paying, but low skill. Fine. I remember Dorothy, woman who worked at the Coliseum. We were going to get on the elevator after I finished covering Raiders preseason game in 2015. And she said, I like my arrangement here because I can piece together an 8-hour shift by working the Raiders or A's jobs and then the Warriors or whatever has happening at the arena. And she had it all figured out. Fisher found out that it would cost too much to take the Rooted in Oakland sign down the Coliseum. He just got some black paint and painted up in front of Rooted, giving up Rooted from Oakland. But really, not really, because they still have an ownership interest along with the African American sports entertainment groups. That's not exactly true. If Oakland can survive Thao as mayor, then Oakland can survive anything. Hoper says, that was another. Hoper says, MLB has already pre-approved the move, but hasn't stated publicly. Think of it like getting a pre-approved credit card offer. Oakland doesn't have to worry about getting pre-approved offers. The song California, Here I Come is being re-released as Oakland, Here I Leave From. Fisher will disband the A's farm system to save costs and recruit players in the stands. Come on down, you're the new A's pitcher. Fisher says, Hoper writes, that the team is not for sale and moving to Vegas. Vegas approved public funding. Manfred says the A's can move to Vegas. Brody says A's might move. Conclusion, A's are remaining in Oakland. Okay. Hello. That was me. That's how I was starting. Laugh out loud. The mayor said Tiff was in the package for the A's in her interview with baloney. Sheng is behaving like a high school prom queen, head cheerleader who didn't get her way in the end. Moving the goalpost assumes that goalpost existed in the first place. 2024 A's final year in Oakland. A's head for Summerlin Ballpark 2028. Finally get their home they deserve. And the A's keep their name. Zinni, I'm so disappointed in Brody and Casey. When you brought up tax increment, I thought of you. And as well, you should, because we talked about it. That wasn't by accident. And Ross should have just played it where it lays. He should have said, I talked to Zinni Abraham. He said that the cost was for $611 million. Did you know that? And did you talk to the Athletics about how to pay that infrastructure and where does that end and where does tax increment financing begin? He could have just asked the question. Who cares how the mayor feels about me? Which I really honestly don't know. I personally like the mayor. I just don't like the decisions she's making. Thao constantly placing the blame on the Major League Baseball owner moving the team is a great endorsement for the Major League Baseball to eagerly give Oakland a new MLB team. Good luck. When I saw this clip on Twitter, I wrote at the time, come on, Raj, you know that's a lie. Raj's so-called interview was a glorified Thao press release. That's true. The Snake returns in the 2023 movie Escape from Oakland, being a sequel to the 1996 movie Escape from LA and the 1981 film Escape from New York. So there's no political figure or city member you can reach out to turn this around. Please, Zinni, you're our last hope. I gave my answer there. Luke Skywalker, the last hope. Read super chats. I just did. All right. Now, in fairness to Raj, let's finish watching this. We saw this part, okay? But then let's go back, go down, and see what else she had to say. Right here. Okay.
Might have been the biggest takeaway, Mayor Thao, into JohnFisher's decision making. He says, quote, perhaps even more important, we have been unable to secure a reliable date by which we would have a fully approved project. We were running out of time. So he's saying the project wasn't approved officially, whether it's the city, the port, the state. Is that true? And were the A's really bargaining in good faith here?
It is true that nothing was approved, but what I would argue is that it was never approved because the Oakland A's never moved to get to that point. Remember, we were very close to getting that approval so that we then can go to council for approval. But how can you say that you never received anything that is approved? Technically true, But let's be very clear, this was not the fault of the city. This is the Oakland A's playing games again. And not just that, but multiple times throughout this bargaining session, before even my term as mayor, it was the Oakland A's who had requested for a longer timeline, who requested for multiple delays. And this is information that people don't know, but they have asked for multiple delays. And so to now say that somehow it is our fault when they are the ones that continue to move the goalposts is completely not fair, and it is a complete lie.
Now, see, here's where I have to both agree and disagree with the mayor. First of all, she's right about the A's being at fault up to only the point of not having the drawings ready. That goes back to 2021. And Betsy Lake actually put out a memo that was very tearful because I felt every word and every letter of her anguish in trying to get the A's to respond to her requests in a timely fashion. But she wasn't going about it the right way. And what you do, and this is why the city is in the position it's in, if you're going to do redevelopment, folks, you do redevelopment. You do your tax increment financing zone. You establish the public financing authority. You work with your taxing agencies so that you can then begin to collect the property tax revenue through the county assessor. Have that put into your redevelopment account. Let's say you're calling it the HowardTerminal Public Financing Authority. And then begin to collect that money on a pay-as-you-go basis so that the A's aren't paying all the staff costs. You're sharing some of them, and it prolongs, it gives the project some assured life, right? So if Sheng is stuck to that, she would have been right. But where she's wrong is that the city consistently understood it was its responsibility to establish a tax increment financing zone and authority. That has been the city's job from day one. It blew it. You heard Libby say, hey, look, we don't have the talent. You heard me say time and again, hire me, I can do it. After all, I got you all in this mess by convincing Dave Cobble that he could use tax increment financing legislation. He worked with Nancy Skinner to develop SB 293 Skinner. All right. So that is where I think that if the mayor, here's why I get to this. If the mayor just sticks to the bold, hard facts, she can craft a pretty good reason where the athletics would have been able to just, say, you know what? Okay, we didn't handle this correctly either. Let's come to a compromise. But she's gone about it the entire wrong way. And that's why I'm so weird about this. If you just stick to the facts at hand, the things that you were supposed to do and the things that they were supposed to do, that's how you do it. You don't go off changing the story. You don't go off demonizing them. You don't go off disrespecting them by not bringing your A game to a meeting with a commissioner and your A people. Sheng did all of that. She wrecked the city's credibility. But if you stick to the things you did and not deviate from that path, you will find yourself with the kind of agreement you want. But you got to stick to that plan. But if you don't even have a plan to do it that way, you will never see, I'm telling you, you will never see that day. You can't turn around 2 years after you should have acted, and because the public's hair is on fire, like the A's fans, then suddenly your hair is on fire. Oh, like 2 years after the A's said, hey, 2.5 years after the A's said, hey, we're going to look at Las Vegas. A year plus after the commissioner said that he's done with Oakland. That spells too late. Okay. So like I said, the mayor, you said, can the mayor recover this and turn things around? It is too late. All right. Because you know why? Content, all that content out there, and time. And the fact that the machine to create a bond issue is rolling and operating as we speak. It's not going to wait for signatures to be gathered for some opposition. It's going to be done way before that, and it's going to move. Because the fact of the matter is that that $380 million bond issue, which is really $180 million, is a drop in the bucket compared even to what the Raiders commanded with that $750 million subsidy. When, by the way, the Las Vegas Stadium Authority has not collected as much revenue as it needs to cover the bond debt for the last 3 months. The good news is that it's still $14 million. It's still looking at a $14 million surplus. So it can ride out this, I think, for the next 4 months. Just saying. Pay attention to the numbers and the process. I'm going to say something and I want it to stick. The numbers and the process is your savior. You hear me? The numbers and the process is your savior. Let it be your savior. Forget the politics. The political people, they remind me of something that Mark Twain once said, that when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Well, that's precisely what the problem is right here. You have too many politicians who only see things politically, and at that, not in a good way. That's got to stop in its tracks. Okay. So he says, getting so it doesn't even matter. As we know what the result is, change is part of life. Very true, Eric. And nothing stays the same. We have to get used to it, accept it. But Eric, I would go a step further and say we have to engineer it. I went to school to be a change agent. Planners engineer the future. That's what we do. Doesn't matter if it's housing, economic development. Planners engineer the future. This isn't about engineering the future. That's what pains me about this. This is about political cover. It's not fun. Fun is, okay, hey, look, they want to leave. Ooh, cool. How can we re-envision this? How can we reimagine this to really get back to that excitement that we felt when Bjarke Ingels put out their drawings? We can recreate that excitement, folks, in a convention center. We don't have one. We need one to compete with all the other economic development standards that have been set before us and put us as a city of Oakland more firmly and squarely into an industry we should have been in a long time ago, specifically the meetings, incentives, conventions, and entertainment industry. We call the MICE industry. When Kevin was the president of Hotel Council for San Francisco, he told me that Oakland was under-hoteled. I found a study that said that we are 16,000 fewer hotel rooms than we actually needed. 16,000. How else do you generate the demand for those but to build a big ass convention center? Make room for all the nonprofits that need the homes, that want to do big events. Give them a home and then build on that. We don't have that edifice, and we need it. We need it. We have had the same downtown convention center since 1988. We've had the Oakland Auditorium. It was supposed to have been for conventions, and it converted to office. Heck, 1975, I worked the Star Trek convention at the Oakland Auditorium. We ought to have a system of auditoriums and convention centers in Oakland. We don't have that at all. We can establish it like that. You hear me? Like that. I'm can do. I believe this can be done, and I believe it can be done so quickly that will make your head spin. That'll make you quite literally forget about this episode. I'm telling you that's possible. I'm telling you that's possible. I feel like Raj took some of Zinni's ideas. Well, taxing and financing wasn't my idea. What he did was he took my explanation and turned it around and made it look like it was the A's fault. and then he fed it to Sheng. And not only that, I think Sheng expected that. So to me, it looks like they had something worked out ahead of time. That's what it looks like to me. I certainly hope I'm wrong, but I don't see how I am. I just don't. And I believe me, I tried to see it. Take everything Sheng says with a grain of salt. So you know the people will. The people will keep voting the same people, and so you get the same results, maybe just in worsening fashion. Eric, we've that's where we've had. And when does it stop? I don't know. Technically, true really means that's totally true. Yeah. All right. You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall. Zinni, we need you. Thanks always for caring. Thank you. Very much. But I'm not going to cry. Heck with that. I literally have done my bid for king and country. And queen, too. So, hey. But we've got to do this. Because the biggest problem we have out there? We have about 10,000 people that need grants of $10,000 each to restart their lives, to have some hope, to buy food. We need to get them in the housing that they don't have to pay for at least for 3 years. We need to get them into treatment centers. We need to get them into mental health centers. And it's a big expenditure that we should stop being afraid to absorb completely. We absorb it some. But what happens is we put out some money and then we say we've done something. We have to stop that. We got a giant problem. My contention is that if we do the convention center part, we will get the revenue that can help fuel the cost of that, which is huge. Because if we use tax increment financing, then we should see the convention center in the same way that HowardTerminal was seen with the ballpark, with the offices and everything else. Same thing. We can do this. I am telling you, I know it as sure as I am before you. We could actually turn this around. We don't have to lie about anything. We just have to do. Because when we do, both do the convention center and then do Coliseum City and build a ballpark down there, a new one, like we were supposed to, in the parking lot, next to the current one. Okay? On spec. Yeah, I said that in big, on spec. We need to be about sending out, not by voice, but by action, a primal scream that shows we are ready, willing, and able to get our act together and have Oakland achieve its rightful place as the king of the San Francisco Bay Area. And I said it just like that. All right. Good night, everybody. I'll see you.